Hello everybody, I just wanted to give a quick video for what we went over with in class today. Sorry it's so late, I'm getting this out, but I'm learning as I go along here, so hopefully they'll start getting quicker. So the start of this video, there's a little, this screencast, there's a little video, so I'm going to go ahead and click and get going on this video, and you can watch this video and then we'll continue on with the discussion. Well, try this again. Here we go. Okay, I really like that video. I think it's a pretty cool video, and there's a video that makes you want to study biology. It's that video. I always thought that with that video. So today, what we were started off with your bell ringer today was asking you, are viruses living or non-living? And I got a lot of answers. You know, a lot of people said yes. A lot of people said no. There was no definite one way or the other. And so today and the next couple days, as we go through these characteristics of life, I want you to be thinking about, we're going to kind of be thinking about viruses, because that's really on our mind a lot here lately, and see if the virus has these characteristics that we're going to be talking about. Okay, so the first thing, the first characteristic is composed of cells, and all living organisms are composed of one or more cells. They are the basic building blocks of life. So today in class we talked about how there are two main types of cells. Okay, they are what we call a eukaryotic, and that is spelled E-U-K-R-Y-O-T-I-C, eukaryotic, and that's what animal cells and plant cells are. I was wanting to write that out for you, but I can't see my ability to write here on the screen, so I apologize for that. I'll figure that out hopefully for the next video. But animal cells and plant cells are what we consider eukaryotic. We'll talk more about that later on in the year. But that actually means eu means true, and kary means nucleus. So eukaryotic means that they are of a true nucleus. And bacteria down here, they're different than these. They are what we call a prokaryotic cell. Pro in this sense means not professional, but means before. So that means before nucleus. So these are much more simpler, and if you'll notice in the bacterial cell here, they don't have a nucleus, okay? And they don't have mitochondria, and endoplasmic reticulum, and all that. They're pretty simple. They only basically have a cell wall, a cell membrane, ribosomes, and DNA. But you'll notice, I don't know how much you know about viruses, but viruses are mainly composed of two things. They are composed of an outer coating of protein, a protein shell or a protein capsule, or a capsid is what they're oftentimes in surrounding a DNA or RNA, so some type of genetic code. So they don't have the ribosomes and the cell walls and the cell membranes, and then obviously a nucleus and mitochondria and all that. So we typically wouldn't say that a virus is a cell. So that right off the bat, viruses don't have the first characteristic here that we consider of living organisms. The second characteristic that we're going to talk about is being able to reproduce. So it was a pretty misunderstood question, as a lot of people put yes, viruses are living because they can reproduce. And what you need to understand is viruses cannot reproduce on their own. The way they reproduce is when they get into your body, they have to attach to a cell and either inject their DNA, or they will enter that cell and introduce their DNA inside that cell. Now typically, a little bit about DNA. Your DNA inside your cells is kind of like a blueprint for making proteins. And when you look in the mirror, you're basically seeing the results of protein synthesis. So your skin, your nails, your hair, your muscle, all that is made of protein. And your DNA is a blueprint for the production of that protein. So what happens when that virus gets into your cell and that viral DNA gets into your cell, it reads that DNA, that blueprint, instead of your own blueprint, and instead of making protein, your cells start to make more viruses, and they just become a virus making factory. And they'll make hundreds or thousands of viruses, and then they will burst out of that cell and they'll go infect other cells. So it's key to understand that a virus cannot reproduce on its own. It has to have a host cell to reproduce in. And a little bit more about reproduction here. We typically think about living things duplicate their genetic code and produce offspring. So again, a virus has no way to reproduce its own genetic code. It has to have a host cell to reproduce its genetic code, or to read its genetic code and make other viruses. So again, number two there, viruses don't really fit into that category either. And the third one that we're going to talk about here is that DNA, that's your genetic code, is your DNA. So the third one is grow and develop. Okay, inherited information is carried by genes, and carried by genes controls patterns of growth and development in organisms. So In class, we talked about how every one of us start off life as a single-celled fertilized egg called a zygote. And then that you were a zygote for only about 30 hours, and then you split into 2 cells, and then those 2 cells for about 15 hours, then they split into 4. And then after 2 or 3 days, you become a little ball of cells, and eventually become an embryo, and you start to get development. Your DNA, your genes code for development of certain body regions, like your certain part of your embryo becomes your nervous system, certain part becomes your skeletal system and your digestive system. So all that's taking place, and it's all that information is carried in your genetic content inside your cells, and it controls the development of you. And then you become a fetus, and then you're born into a baby. Then you start to grow into your childhood and through your adolescent years and teenage years into what you are now, and all that is growth and development. Some of you are still growing, some of you are still developing, and things like that. So, and we can think about viruses real quick. When viruses are made inside of a cell, do they grow and develop? Are they like baby viruses when they first are made? No, they're not. They're a fully functional virus ready to go infect other cells. So they don't go through that period of growth and development. So step number 3 there, again, viruses don't really fall into that category. So that's all we're going to talk about so far today, and that was most of what we talked about in class today. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'll probably be posting another video, and don't forget, tomorrow you'll have another bell ringer that you'll need to log in and complete. Thank you. Goodbye.